podcast time. Yay! I've been looking forward to it all day long.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, we were literally just talking about where we've been. So
Where have we been?
yeah, so I was back at that. Sorry.
A lot of water under the proverbial bridge.
I might still be in the water now.
I think that I've got one hand up trying to get out of the water. Like the Lord just threw me like a life vest, to put on. Yeah. The Lord just threw me a life vest to put on, but I'm definitely in the water. I'm a bit in the water.
No pun intended on the vest either.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
No pun intended on the vest.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this vest here just a second. Let's give an update on our lives.
Sure.
Our last podcast, we talked about spiritual wealth and emotional prosperity. And then you and I both just tumbled down the hill.
I think I tumbled and you literally flew. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
If we're going to compare, that's, yeah.
I just jumped off the side of the Grand Canyon and you rolled down the hill of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
I think it's good that we bring our people up to date and just kind of tell them what's been going on in our lives, because we love doing this podcast and FRLS271 Ministries, we here for it, and we always have been.
We keep it real too.
We keep it real. Yeah. So we want to talk, the last one we did was that spiritual wealth and emotional prosperity. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about emotional prosperity right now. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, it's good with me.
Okay.
It's good with me. Besides, it's real life stuff. So yeah.
It is real life stuff. And I think that it's stuff that we need to be transparent enough to share kind of what's going on. So why don't you talk about kind of where you were and then what happened? Because I think some folks can maybe identify, maybe folks need a change in their life and maybe need to get out of a certain situation or just whatever. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So why don't you bring us up to date with where you were and what occurred?
What occurred? Like that. So yeah, we were back in January, and I think the last thing I was sharing is I was getting ready to step into a new job. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge transition, huge decision. And if I'm honest, we're being honest, right? So,
we are.
Now hindsight, fast forward another almost 2 months. Mm-hmm. Here we are. Yeah. So anyway, and looking back on a little bit of it, because I can tell the difference of where I was and even just to now, and I know it's going to continue. It's one of those things, right? But yeah, where I really struggled with the whole decision process, because there was a part of me that was like, this job was different, same industry, but it was a big opportunity, like a growth opportunity. And even like moments where I'm like, can I do this? And like in moments that I'm like, of course I can do this. Well, but I don't know if I can do this kind of thing. So it was hard, like, let alone transition, feeling guilty of leaving good people, also kind of leaving a frustrated environment that I was in, so it was like a mix of all kinds of things, right? Well, took the job, obviously, started it. And literally, I think after our last podcast, literally, like what, 4 days, maybe 5 days?
Yes.
I got shingles.
Oh, here we are.
I feel like I should have had a jingle for the shingles. You know what I'm
saying?
Like,
for the shingles. We got the shingles.
We got the shingles. And I didn't even know what that was, if I'm really honest with you. I've heard of it, but I've never.
It's because you're, for my world, my 59-year-old world, shingles is a thing. For me, you get the shot, you do all the things. For your world, it is not even on the grand scheme of things in your world, because you're young.
No.
And that doesn't happen to people like you.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Well, and I won't talk about all that, but my whole rights on my body, I'm like, something's not right. Right. And I remember telling you all through this process, but then it happened. But then it was terrible. It was on my left or my right eye. And I don't wish it upon anybody, to be honest, not even my enemy. But through that, I'm going to say this, because when you and I were talking, the ironicness of it, right, is because I really think there was a lot of stress there that I didn't know that was there, right? A lot that I pushed down. It's kind of who I am. I'm like, everything's good, right? And so I think a lot of that stress, and what you remember what you told me whenever that
I'm not sure, but I think
look
I'm
like an
about to break
ogre.
out in hives.
but but literally,
All the things that you're saying,
I know.
I'm just breaking out in hives right now
I know. You're
because of
welcome.
fast
You're
forward 2
welcome.
months. Keep going. No, what did I say to you?
You should know. You just gonna have to sit in it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, come on.
With my ogre eye. And I'm like, I was like, I don't want to sit in it. And you're like, you're just gonna have to sit in it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, I think sometimes, like, we say this, anybody can say this, right? It's like sometimes God just goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it may, mind you, I literally was on video calls the very first week. And then I'm like, hey, I'm not going to turn on the video camera because it was not good. It's my first week.
Because I look like Shrek.
Yeah. And so it's like, really? You couldn't have picked, but I'm grateful for that.
Well, let me hold your grateful.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, this is probably not funny, but this is the kind of friends that we are and people will appreciate this. I like bring you dinner that one night and I'm like, golly, man, you look bad.
You're like, that's not good. I'm
this is not good. You look really bad.
Yep.
I do not want this in your eye, but this,
yeah.
Ooh, I think you opened the door and I looked at you and I was like, oh yeah, you look bad.
It was not, because I thought, oh man, is it going to go away? Like,
Yes.
it was not fun.
I know,
whatsoever.
I'm sorry, but you were talking about being grateful. Go ahead. I interrupted you completely.
I was not grateful about that part
no.
whatsoever. But I'm grateful for the silence.
Yes.
That I had to sit in a little, you know what I mean? And so much was already like kind of starting to come up. I mean, just left and right, some things that I had not dealt with, some things that were triggered from just some past grief, past, dealing with new transitions and just, things that I'm like, oof, I had not even really visited that, and so I sat in it. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But I think I realized too that it's the same. I think I've touched on this is that I knew something needed to change 6 months, 8 months prior to that. And it's like this churning inside of you, right? Where you're sitting here going, I know something needs to change. I'm not really sure what it is. Well, then I figured out what part of what it was. That door opened with the job. It literally is like a opportunity wrapped up in a bow that dropped down by God. An incredible opportunity. So I know that stepping through that door, as hard as it was, it's where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing, Mm-hmm. And so working through some of that. But yeah, the shingles definitely set me back. It made me think,
What did you learn in the silence? What are some things that you learned? Can you share what you learned?
Yeah. There's a lot.
Yay.
It's like, yeah, that, I don't think, I know. And I mean, we've talked about this, like some of that empath side of me, I think I realized that not just my own things that I struggle with, I think I take on so many other people's stuff. And it just like, I don't think I realize how much it actually affects me until I finally just go,
right.
And I think I realized like, I can't feel guilty for not being able to help, or I don't like the word fix, but you know what I'm saying? Like to be able to help somebody do something, like that's just my natural. And I think sometimes I can go to the extent of wanting to help too much.
Something I'm learning, and because I've shared this before, that I'm getting my master's in pastoral counseling, and something that I'm learning right now in the class that I'm in is how important it is not to solve the problems too quickly of the people that are sitting in front of you.
Yeah.
Because the lesson is never learned if we solve the problem for them too quickly. So that's what an empath does as well. Somewhat you want to, that's what a fixer does. We want to fix it for them. But as soon as we fix it, then they've not actually experienced possibly what they were supposed to experience or learned the lesson that they needed to learn, because we jump in so quickly to fix it. So that's something that I was learning. So that's just a little side note to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because everything you're saying, I identify with, because I'm exactly like that,
Yeah.
I had to learn the hard way with Katie, my sweet
Yeah.
baby Katie, whom I dearly love, my daughter that's 30. But I would fix and fix and fix, but she was never learning the lesson and kept falling into the same mistakes. But we could say that about a lot of people. We could say that about somebody in our workplace, that we continually, try to do their work for them because they're struggling emotionally with a divorce or something that might be happening. And we go in and do it for them, and we just can't do it. They got to learn, so as you sat in it, that was something that you learned.
Totally. And I think too, it's not that I try to like act like I'm strong or try to act like I can do it all, because I know I can't. I really do. But I think there's this reminder, because it happens all the time when things happen, right? Is the whole fact that, and I push things down. And I'm like, I'll deal with that later, because I've got to get this done. It's like kind of that whole like go-getter thing too. And you're like, I'm just gonna, even at work, you're like, focus on the most important thing, get that done. Well, sometimes I can carry that over even to my personal life too, and with dealing with things where I'm like, or something bad happens and I'm like, I just need to push through and to do this and take my mind off of it. And then all of a sudden it gets pushed aside. And I think those things all of a sudden,
they just they reared up.
And so it's things that came up that were past or stress. And I don't think I'm a stressful person. And I'm like, how did I get shingles? People are like, you're the least stressful person we know.
Right.
And I'm like,
yeah.
So watch out. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. It completely reset me and just made me even remember what's important, but also like, just like stepping through that door with the whole work thing, and remembering that like, you just got to trust it, when the unknown or whenever like there's something that God like literally opened the door, he's like, just step through it, just trust me on it. Cause I think I was trying to handle so much of it on my own and not leaning on him, truthfully, if you're honest, if I'm honest.
Do you feel like that's a pride thing? Do you feel like that's, you want to do it on your own? I can do it on my own. Yeah. It's more of a pride thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm super stubborn,
and you don't fail often. You're an individual who does not, things come easily to you, and you don't want to fail. And so I think with some of that keeps us from moving forward into things that we need to do because we're afraid of failure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, nobody likes to fail.
No. And then I go back to, Elijah in the Bible, and when he, we've been talking about this last week, and I've been relating a little bit of my story to him in that he had just gotten one of his most significant ministerial victories. Then some bad juju went down with Jezebel. Bad juju went down with Jezebel, and then he ran for his life. And he was, one of my counseling books, it was so good because it said, and I was just like, what? It said, if Elijah walked into your counseling office right now, what symptoms would he present to you? And you're like, oh, wow. And then the book went in to say he was suicidal because he said, I don't want to live. He told the Lord, I don't want to live. He didn't want to live. He was depressed. And I'm thankful I just brought this up. He was physically tired. And I know the story. He had run for his life. And so the taxing on his body physically, which goes back exactly to what you're saying, he was taxed out physically. So his immune system had to be down and low. And how do we deal with somebody like that in our life? So with you, how would I have dealt? You weren't depressed. You weren't suicidal. Let me go ahead and get that out. You weren't Elijah. Yeah. But, you were trying to figure out your direction on what to do. Well, so was Elijah. But he ran for his life. So he was down physically. What did God do for him first? He met his spiritual needs. And that's what the story even talks about in the Bible. So God brought an angel that fed him. God provided a rock for him to lay his head on. So we can't, like for you, there was absolutely nothing that you could have gained at that time
Yeah.
until your physical needs were met.
Mm-hmm.
Because you were so sick, you just did not feel good. It hurt painfully. It was bad. So yeah, you had to sit in it. You didn't go anywhere.
No.
You didn't do anything. But we try to not deal with the physicality of what's going on in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Could you have pushed through some things? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you? No. Which is good that you did not.
And usually I do, but that literally stopped me.
Yeah. So that brought you down where you had to stop.
Oh yeah. No, I didn't really go anywhere.
You didn't drive, and you couldn't drive really. You were in a lot of pain.
I mean, it caused like confusion. I mean, like it was.
Yes.
I'm sure I,
Yes.
Lord knows with work.
Yes.
And it still worked.
You still got your work done.
Yeah.
And which is so beautiful. Your new workspace they were so graceful. They were full of grace for you.
Oh my gosh. They were just like, you need anything? Like if you need to take, and so, I mean, and there was a part of me that's like, should I have taken a week off before I even started? But then like, I think it even gave me just what you said is like, it was confirmation to me. So I kept having confirmation after confirmation, just taking the steps, right? Going, I know I made the right decision. And so, which was what I think I needed, even though I'm still trusting, right?
Right.
But I think for my human side, we like confirmation.
Oh, heck yes, we do.
Right?
Yes, we do.
And so I think some of that has confirmed that it's like, and the other things that I had to work through. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this is really good. I'm going to totally misquote it, but you're going to get the gist of it, because this is another thing that came up in some of that whole shingles thing. Because some of where the other work was, it could be relationships, friendships, work, however you want to look at this. But sometimes when things are said or things are done to you, you have to understand that sometimes, and most of the time, it's actually not about you. It's about the other person.
Say again.
It's like when something's done to you or said to you or treated a certain way or anything like
that. Oh,
that.
it's because of the other person's inability to handle what they're going through that they projected onto you.
100%.
Okay, I got you. Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
So, and I think that could be anything, but there was, that was some stuff that I had to rest in too. Some of the stress or some of the, because of that guilt of leaving. And, so anyway, that was something I was like, oh, screw nugget, but it was good. And it was, so anyway, yeah. So I think that's all super relatable.
Right.
And that stuff happens all the time.
Yes.
And it's just like, it, but then you're like, why am I going to remind myself about this stuff?
Yes.
So yeah, it was not fun. Fast forward, here I am. The job is awesome.
Yes, you're doing awesome.
Yeah. And, got through that. And yeah, so it really has been good. Every step has just been like, wow, why was I even doubting it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're on the other side, excuse me, when you're on the other side, you can look back at that and it feels really good.
Yes, it just don't get shingles.
Yeah, try not to get shingles, you know, because
Yeah.
you didn't even know you were carrying the stress.
No.
Yeah.
No. And yeah, it built up. And I think that's the scary thing for any of us. I mean, you've got your part of the story too, but it's just like how do we, because to me, the other thing is like, how do I manage that better? I thought I was managing it pretty well, but.
Right.
I guess not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Same with me. I 4 weeks ago this week, so 4 weeks ago yesterday, it's been almost one full month. I went into cardiac arrest in a class at the gym. So, to not share the story too much, I just, my heart stopped and was brought back. Woke up on the floor,
Yeah.
And that has caused me now to sit in it. You were able to give me my own advice back again.
Okay, let me the friendship thing, like
Yeah.
you said about when I walked in there in the
Y-
hospital, I said,
yeah.
okay, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Shingles,
Mm-hmm.
you one-upped me and you just basically had cardiac arrest. So you're gonna have to sit in
I'm
it.
gonna have to sit in it.
That's literally.
And with me, sitting in it it's not always been a problem for me because I
Yeah.
can slow down enough to sit in it.
Mhm.
People don't think I can. People think that I'm always the Energizer Bunny, going flitting here, flitting there, skirting everywhere, But I'm learning a whole lot, and I still am. Um, I don't think I can begin to scratch the surface of knowing what God's trying to show me. All I've said is that I was left here for some reason, and I want to try to figure out what that reason is. It
Mhm.
may be something big, it may be something small, it may be, I don't know what it is, but I don't want to miss it. And I had a friend tell me today, reach out to me and say, how you doing? And I said, I'm doing okay. I said, but I'm consistently going back to that whole, I don't want to miss it. And she said, don't weigh too much in on that. And I thought, really? And she said, because God would never want you to worry about that. That would be the enemy trying to tell you that you're going to miss something. And I'm like, whoa, I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
But for me, my entire life is different right this second.
Yeah.
So for me, if I just go straight, my head gets buzzy if I start talking like this. I'm going to be 100% transparent and say my biggest thing right now is emotional, just not knowing how to deal with this emotionally. And it's not the, when somebody said you're going to hit a wall, you're going to hit a wall. When all of this comes crashing in on you, you're going to hit a wall. But I've tried to sit in it ever since it happened so that I didn't hit the proverbial wall. But, fitness instructor for 30 plus years, no longer teaching classes. Fitness instructor for 30 something plus years, can't get my heart rate over a certain amount. Working full time, teaching, going, doing, really can't do that right. Can't drive. So told by the doctor that you can't drive. And I'm thinking, I just said, what? And my sweet cardiologist is the best thing ever. Shout out to Chris Arant. He's not listening to our podcast, but if y'all are patients of Chris Arant, he's my patient. I mean, he's my doctor. He's my doctor.
Yeah.
And he's amazing. But yeah, when he came in and told me that I couldn't drive, I just said, what is happening? And he said, it's a state law where if you go, I don't know what the exact law says, but I feel like it has something to do with the fact that I can go into cardiac arrest.
Wow.
So that's the reason I've got the equipment and the vest, that you talked about a few minutes ago. I have a life vest on. And for those of you, I just really want all of y'all to just keep wondering what it looks like. It's really like a really tight sports bra. Yeah. That has leads and pads in it that will shock me back. It's a defibrillator basically. And I have to wear that for a couple months. And while you wear that, you're not supposed to drive. So I've been at the mercy of lots of folks. And but really right now, I'm just trying to figure out what happened and why it happened. And was I doing something that could cause it? I did have a blockage. But did that blockage come from, and according to Dr. Arant, stress and genetics? So, as you can see and as you can hear, I'm in total loss. Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah. So for me emotionally right now, you can pray for me. Because I'm doing okay. But I have no idea why I'm a big I'm the proverbial question mark. I'm a huge question mark right now. Because you'd like to be able to go to the doctor and then say, you need to eat better. Well, really, I can't really eat that much better. Well, you need to exercise. Well, really, no, I don't. I could not be exercising any more than I was. So this happens to people sometimes, and for some reason, it happened to me. So I'm just trying to see what God has for me on the other side of that. There's obviously something, like my friend said, I shouldn't be worrying about it. I should just be praying on, hey, God, what is it? Are there things in my life that I need to let go of?
Mm.
Are there things in my life that I need to be doing that I'm not?
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that it's been a total park your Jeep in the driveway moment, literally, because I cannot drive.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's no pun intended.
no
on that
pun
one,
intended. Yeah. I mean, it's a total, it's a brand new Leslie. And what is that going to be for? What's going to happen? What's this going to be? So if we go back to transitions, we've talked about
Mhm.
transitions before. William
Yeah.
Bridges wrote an incredible book on transitions, and he talked about how you got to end one phase before you can start a new phase, and in between all that's called the wilderness. I'm in the wilderness right now,
Mm-hmm.
and the wilderness is not a fun place to be in. It's just not. It doesn't feel good.
Mm-mm.
Physically, it doesn't feel good. Emotionally, it does not feel good because I don't know what's next.
Mm-hmm.
So until I figure out what's next, and God doesn't want me to sit in the weird spot of the wilderness forever. And shout out to the guy on shout out to the pastor that did an incredible reel on Instagram. I wish I knew his name right now, but I'm giving him all the credit. This is nothing of me. That said, to be able to start something new, you got to get out of the chair.
Ooh, that one.
Yes.
Oh. He
You know,
about fell out when he said it.
Me
I about fell
too.
out.
I about fell out. I mean, I was like, because he said,
Yeah.
as long as I sit here, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
I've got to leave the chair for change to happen.
Yeah.
So
Ooh,
shout
that was
out to
good.
him
Ooh,
because
yeah.
I'm sitting in a chair right now, but I've got to move forward to find out what that next phase is in my life. I can't sit still too long. I can sit still emotionally and sit in it because that's the only way I'm going to figure out what's next.
Mm-hmm.
So, challenge to everybody that's listening that's not willing to sit in their circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
You got to sit in it.
And sometimes it forces you to. I mean, literally, like mine is a little minuscule compared to what yours is.
Well, yours was,
but,
I always tell people, your problem is your problem.
Oh, I know.
Your issue's your issue. Your issue shingles. My issues was cardiac arrest.
I know, but I think sometimes things like that happen, seriously, because I think, sometimes it's the only way God can get a hold of you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what happened in both of our circumstances.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? And
yes.
So, but I do think that, so if you're wondering, you're like, man, why did this happen? Sometimes, I mean, I remember even like thinking that after losing the family member, my sister, it was like, was this like to get our attention? You know what I mean? Like kind of thing. And you wonder those things, right?
Oh, so he uses distractions.
Yeah. So but I think my challenge too, off of your challenge, is what you just said about like transitions, not being afraid if you're presented an opportunity to leave the chair.
Right. You got to leave the chair. And Rachel's death was not a distraction. He uses distractions. He uses grief. He uses loss. He uses pain. I mean, really, those things should be our best friend. Because if we don't experience those things, we are not going to change.
Truth.
We are not going to change. We are going to sit and do the same old thing, and we're going to get the same old results.
Truth.
We've got to experience those things. And most believers, not even just Christians, nobody thinks that they should hurt. Nobody. Nobody thinks that you should go through, why me? Why me? Why me? No. You're not immune to that. Why not me? Get out of the chair. And something before we started recording this a minute ago, if God is rattling your cage, let's go. God is rattling your cage. I mean, and the visual imagery I have of that right now is me just sitting in a freaking cage of despair, a cage of depression, a cage of uncertainty, a cage, and God is just rattling that cage. He's got his hands on the bars and he's rattling that cage. Leslie, come on, girl, get out. Let's go. I'm going to rattle this cage. Was my cardiac arrest him at rattling my cage? I don't know. And he may be going, you're putting a little bit too much drama into this right now, Leslie. I really just wanted you to step forward into this. But
Right.
Leslie, it's okay. If you want to see me rattling your cage, that's fine too. But the circumstances of my story right now that God is writing is cage rattling moments. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, but here I sit in the chair. Afraid to move, afraid to transition, afraid to move. Here I sit, holding on, white knuckles. What's next, Lord?
Yes, but you're also sitting in it, and you're.
Yeah, I am sitting. I think I don't know how long you emotionally sit into things like this, but this is a big one.
Well, yeah, let's say emotionally. Yeah.
This is an emotional big one. Physically, my heart's 100% at this point. I mean, I don't know if it's 100%, but I had a stent placed in it. And it's beating just as hard as it was prior to what happened. And everybody says, you feel good? How you feeling? How are you feeling? Well, guess what? I never felt bad.
No, yeah.
So let's figure that one out.
Yeah.
I never felt bad. I never saw it coming. So I was pushing too hard. So I was pushing too hard physically in an exercise class, but truly in my entire life, I was pushing too hard. And I hope I never forget that. I hope my life never goes back to status quo like it was. I hope to always go, wow, February 6th was a life-changing day at like 7 a.m. because that's when it was. Life-changing. So, hey, you going to get your cage rattled or are you going to sit in the chair?
Ooh,
come on.